in the 90s, when you were being born,
Yes.
I was being introduced to my passion, which is Terry Pratchett, right? And my cousin, I read a lot of, I was a big reader growing up. I was the geeky girl under the window trying to get the light from across the room, because we're supposed to be asleep. Big reader. Not a lot of great books for teenagers then, but, I really got into it. So in my 90s, or in the 90s, I was, my cousin gave me this book because I would have read a lot of fantasy. And he said, you'll love Terry Pratchett. This is my very first Terry Pratchett book that he gave me. And in retrospect, he's passed now, so I didn't realise how important this book was, because this is
signed, isn't it?
It's signed, and it's one of the first editions. So it's he gave me a very important book. There was only 5 books, so I went back to the beginning, and I fell in love with Terry Pratchett and his books. And it was like Eurovision in some ways, because you would visit the Discworld every year when he brought a new book out, to see how everybody was doing, because the characters would come in and out, and you became very fond of them. So that happened in the mid-90s, the 94, 95 program. At that time, I got my first Terry Pratchett, and he wrote 41 books in the Discworld series alone, and I loved it, and I still love it. And recently, I'm just going to show you, these are my 2. This one here is my very favourite book, Witches Abroad, right? This is the one with
I love how that looks.
It's so amazing. The characters are astonishing, right? And I love Witches Abroad. It's my favourite book. It's still the one I read the most, right? It's really brilliant. But this is the last book he ever wrote, because he died a couple of years ago, The Shepherd's Crown. And this is the last, this is the last book that was ever released that he ever wrote, because there was an agreement then that they would never finish the books.
Yes.
Without him, which I'm really glad, to be honest.
You don't want people to... You get these stuff, all these Michael Jackson CDs from 2021. And
it's not, no, it's of its thing. And it took me a long time to read this book, as in, I didn't want to read it.
No, yeah.
Because it was like saying goodbye to someone. So Terry Pratchett to me is probably my Titanic.
Yeah.
Do you know? So I love reading, actually. It's one of my favourite things to do. I love reading, and I love walking, and all the boring things. I sound like I could be your best friend and all, but actually I am more fun than I sound. But I love to read. I love walk.
Sound fun.
And I love all those things. But actually, Terry Pratchett is still at my heart, and are the ones that I would reread most. I can reread these books every couple of years and still love them, and I know them, but there's still things to discover in them all the time, and how you feel. And I can't believe that happened around the time, basically, that you were born.
Yes. Well, Terry Pratchett, it kind of reminds me, I know Terry Pratchett. I've never read the books, but I know what they're like.
Yes.
And they kind of remind me of what I used to like as well, The Worst Witch.
Yes.
It's not similar, but it's like the same kind of vibe. It has the same kind of energy.
And you're invested in the characters. I think it's so fab, when you get in love with these characters and they keep coming back. I think that's just amazing. I feel like I live in Discworld,
Yeah.
And I know all the areas, and what I love about Terry Pratchett is he brings, he parodies things, but he gives you a lot of lessons in them, but through humour, and I love that. And even though it's fantasy based, you will recognise an awful lot of stuff in it. I mean, he never parodied Eurovision, which is disappointing.
No, I was going to say one day, but that's actually not an option.
Too late now. Although
you could write a Eurovision book.
I could write a Eurovision book. I could write many things.
Shall we book the tour?
Yes. Yeah. I think we should do a tour. That would be better.
We should do a tour anyway.
We should talk about Eurovision. Go around all the fans, and they can ask any question they like.
Actually, that's not even a bad idea.
Oh, really? Book it.
Yeah.